Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Good Deeds, a quarterly update about your Registry of Deeds in Norfolk County. And joining me today is the Register of Deeds, of course, Bill O'Donnell. Bill joins us for all of these update shows. Thank you for coming in and joining us once again.
Mark, thank you for hosting it, and thanks to Quincy Access for all your help in getting this information out about the Registry of Deeds. I always say it's an arm of government many people don't know about, but the biggest asset most of us have are our homes, and the information that Quincy Access and yourself gets out, I think it helps people, so thank you.
And we should mention, of course, that local access and your involvement in local access, not only in Quincy, but throughout Norfolk County, is exemplary.
Yeah. Well, we try to do it, and it has effects. You know, we're going to talk about statistics, and I always bring up, some of the statistics show kind of a sluggish economy, but as far as homesteads are up, and I always say, Quincy Access should take credit for it. For instance, Quincy homesteads in 2016, from November 1st to November 30th, was 1,113 homesteads, and that increased by 15%. And countywide, homesteads were up 2%. So I think that's a reflection of getting out there, doing the outreach at office hours, whether it's at the town halls or going to the senior centers or going to the community organizations and cable shows like yourself. So, because people realize, hey, having a homestead protects my home. It's part of the state legislature. The legislation allows people to declare a homestead that, in essence, puts a picket fence around the house. They can't force the sale of your home. So we're here to talk statistics, but outreach does matter, and what Quincy Access does matter, and you can see it just on a statistic like that here in Quincy, homesteads are up, and when the economy and statistics overall are down.
And we will get to statistics in one moment, but just tell folks about what the homestead is set at currently.
Yes, the homestead, and again, thank you, your local legislators. You have Ron Mariano, Tacky Chan, Bruce Ayers, Representative Hunt has a slice of Quincy, and of course Senator Keenan. It is set at $500,000. The legislators are always, looking at things, and they've put things into the homestead law. So it's $500,000 worth of protection, but the big thing is it doesn't force the sale of your home. And your local legislators have put things in. For instance, if you have a homestead recorded, the proceeds of the sale of your home are protected for a limited period of time, 1 year, so that creditors can't come in and swoop in and get after those proceeds. Or if your house, say, burnt down and you were given a casualty insurance check to build the house, having a homestead recorded at the registry protects that for a limited period of time of 2 years. So there's all these little things that are written into the statute by your local legislators that help the consumer. So just make sure you get one recorded.
Right. Is $500,000 automatic?
Well, no, the automatic one, and again, thank you, local legislators, for the first time in Massachusetts history, they've rewritten the books where before you had to declare a homestead, and I still recommend that people do that because it's $500,000 worth of protection. If you've done nothing, you have an automatic homestead of $125,000, and that was written into the statute. But to my way of thinking, the filing fees, which are set by the state legislature, relatively modest. I'd rather for a short filing fee of $36, I'd rather get the $500,000 worth of protection. And also, elderly is defined by the legislature as 62 and above. So if both you and your spouse or your significant other and you own the property, you both can declare an estate of homestead and get $500,000 worth of protection for each person.
And if folks are questioning whether they do have a homestead on their property?
Yes, what to do, you can always call the Norfolk Registry of Deeds at our customer service. We started a customer service department just to help people out, 781-461-6101, and you can call up and just ask, hey, do I have a homestead recorded on my property? Or check our office hours at www.norfolkdeeds.org. We go to all the communities. There are 28 communities in Norfolk County, and we bring our computers. We try to bring the registry records to people's homes and businesses via the internet, but we also bring it to the people through office hours, and we can check for you. So you can either call directly, or some people who are like to challenge themselves on the computers, they can go on our website and do the research themselves. Look up their names and see, if they can figure out if they have a homestead. But again, we don't try to put the burden. We recognize we're a government agency. We don't try to put the burden on the constituents. So if you have any questions or you want to know if you have a homestead, please call us and we'll help you out.
Let's get to those numbers.
Well, in the third quarter, we could see total documents, for instance, in the third quarter were down 14%. And what I've done is try to bring statistics from January 1st to November 30th, because here we are in December. Where has the time gone?
Right.
And I think the sluggishness we saw in the third quarter, for instance, total documents down 14%, that has paralleled what has taken place all year. In 2016, we had 152,234 documents recorded during that period, and we're down by almost 11,707 documents. So again, in 2017, it's 140,527 documents, and that's down 8%. And again, Quincy has sort of bucked that trend. They're down, but they're only down by 3%. For instance, in 2016, again, from January 1st to November 30th, they had 14,674 documents recorded, and in 2017 it went down to 14,237. So again, total document volume being down, it says something's happening. And then when you kind of really look at, say, mortgage activity, you realize that it's sluggish. Sales are down probably because of inventory. For instance, countywide, sales increased by only 1%, from 16,906 sales in 2016 to 17,000. And brokers tell us it's because the inventory is low. The good news in Quincy, sales were up 5%, 2,086 deeds recorded from, again, November 30th back to January 1st. In 2017, it was 2,194. That's an increase of 5%. So there were increases, again, very modest, countywide, only 1%. And the reason why sales might not be as strong is there's less inventory. But at least Quincy seems to be bucking the numbers. But on mortgage activity, again, down 19% countywide, 25,250 mortgages in 2017 compared to 2016, 31,145. So that's a 19% decrease. And again, Quincy saw a decrease in mortgage activity too. They were down 412 mortgages, 3,140 to 2,728, but they were only down 13%. So again, sort of outperforming what's going on countywide.
Right.
But I think it shows, again, it shows a sluggishness to the real estate economy. It's something to be aware of. And interest rates could be going up, so that could also have an impact on mortgage activity, on sales. So that seems to be the trend, that things are plugging along, but not as vibrant as it has been in the past.
Of course, we're on the cusp of Washington likely passing a tax overhaul plan as well.
Yes, and again, every legislation sometimes has good consequences, and sometimes it has unintended consequences. And I know there was debate going on mortgage interest and what was going to be deducted. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. But hopefully it turns around, the economy. But you can see at least one sector of the economy that the Registry of Deeds deals with, the real estate economy, is just it's sluggish. I'll use the word sluggish.
What about foreclosure activity?
Well, foreclosure activity, and again, we've partnered up with NeighborWorks of Southern Massachusetts. You have Quincy Community Action Program here in Quincy. So my advice is, if every community struggles with foreclosure, if you know someone that's doing that, or having those issues, contact our website, go on our website, and you can contact those nonprofit groups. You'll get some help. Get some help right away when you're facing foreclosure. But The deeds countywide were down. There were only 247 foreclosure deeds. That's from the beginning to the end recorded, as opposed to 272. So that was down 39%. And from Quincy, it went from 29 foreclosure deeds to 19, which is down 34%. So again, that's all we see at the registry is a notice to foreclose at the beginning and then at the end. Sometimes people are facing a loss of a job or a catastrophic medical situation, and they get themselves back on track, usually with the good work of the two nonprofit groups. They give good counseling services. But that's the end. The good news is the notices to foreclose, which is the beginning, they're down countywide. They're down. It was 760 in 2016 for that 11-month period, and they're down to 590. That's countywide. And in Quincy, there was 76 notices to foreclose in 2016, and here in 2017, it's 64. So, at least that's one good piece of news, is that the foreclosure aspects are trending down. But again, one person struggling with it is that's the biggest thing in their lives, and we've got to be sensitive to that, and we try to at the registry. So we again, the best advice you can give is go to these nonprofit groups, get the help right away. Do not wait until your property is being on the auction block the day out in front of the lawn there. Just start early and get some help, and hopefully things will go the right way for you.
And once again, as far as finding out the contact information on these organizations, they could
yes,
they
you could go to our website.
Go
to our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org. We have the contact information, and we also have contact information to the Attorney General's office, which has also been helpful to people.
And a phone number as well, which is on screen, 781-461-6101.
Yes, that's the customer service department, and we try to help them out.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about what the registry is doing to stay up with the times. I guess we'll look at the IT department first.
Well, again, you always, trying to, perfect your disaster recovery plans. And here we are coming into the winter. I mean, we were the first registry to put a generator in. So when all these, electricity has been cutting out with these storms, we've been up and running. Again, we also have we have a disaster recovery office down the street in Dedham. So if something happens to 649 High Street, again, it will be a struggle, but hopefully, if something happened to that building, we can get up and running. And again, we try to do it. I've tried to run it like a business. It's a government agency, but there is a lot of good that you can learn from business, and those are some of the business type things that we've tried to do. Business continuity planning, to treat a government entity like the registry, which does impact business, does impact a big part of our economy, the real estate economy, and try to through the IT department, make sure that we do run it like a business, that if something happens, we'll be up and running. And we've been doing that. As far as other improvements internally to the registry documents, we've started a lot of projects, and we've been finishing them. Again, we were just finished. We are now completely indexed back to 1793. So for those, Norfolk County started in 1793. Right. Quincy is one of the 28 communities that makes up Norfolk County.
You weren't there back then.
No. My kids might think I were, but no. So the documents are you could view the documents. We've had them up and viewed for a long time. You could just look them up, but you had to know the book and page. Now you could run Mark Crosby. Every Mark Crosby back to 1793 is completely integrated. You enter the name into the index, and every document that involves Mark Crosby back to 1793 can come up, and so it's really good, because we're very proud. No Iron team, the staff's done a great job, and to implement it and oversee the implementation. And we've also just finished up our transcription project. I enjoy history. A lot of history in Norfolk County. A lot of history here in Quincy. You have two presidents buried here who were born here, and there were 4 presidents born in Norfolk County. So there's a lot of great history, and we had a transcription project. We were the first registry in New England to do it, where from 1793 to 1900, all the documents were handwritten out, and we've transcribed them. So if you went to Book 1, Page 1, the first document from 1793, which is in cursive form, handwritten, it comes up. Sometimes they're difficult to read. That's why we started this project. If you hit the next button, it transcribes. You get a typed version of that document. And the lawyers, title examiners, and engineers who really are, the mission of the registry involves the real estate economy. They have found that it's helped them and they like it. But we see more and more people doing genealogical and historical research. And I always said history can't come alive. In the rich history of Norfolk County, if you can't read it, it doesn't come alive. And that's why it's had kind of a benefit to the people that use it every day in their profession, but it also, by improving how the documents are delivered to everybody out in, whether it's through the internet, it has helped people do genealogical and historical research, or just people that are interested in who lived in their building, or
right.
What went on way back, what the names were. And so it's been a pretty good project, and we just completed that, and that was over 450,000 documents have been transcribed. So we're very happy with the project.
Talk about the registry's, I suppose, plan when it comes to consumer protection.
Well, it kind of sort of ties into the IT. I hope nothing bad happens to our systems. But and we've had them independently looked at. The experts say, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen; it's when. And I think we're seeing that with more and more fraud. We see that, for instance, with the deed scams, that even though, Quincy Access, we come on and talk about a deed scam. What is a deed scam? People will solicit from you, whether it's a letter, or another group sends out what looks like a tax bill. And for the tax bill, at least the letter was $60. They'd get you a certified copy of the deed. This new bill, which looks like a tax bill, it's an $86 fee. And they just send you a copy, not even a certified copy of a document. So any of those scams, please don't fall prey to them. But what we've done, seeing scams like that take place, and listening to colleagues, other registries out in the western part of the country, the FBI says that mortgage and property fraud is the fastest growing white-collar crime. And we've set up, we were the first registry in Massachusetts to do a consumer notification anti-fraud program. So if you go to our website, you can sign up for it. And I've signed up myself. You get an email notification. My name's, so any William O'Donnell, any document that pertains to William O'Donnell, I get an email, and I look it up. Now, it might be William J. O'Donnell. I'm William Patrick O'Donnell. It could be, William P. O'Donnell, but William Paul instead of William Patrick. But I get the email, it references the document, and I look the document up, and I also, can check on it. Now, it's never been involving my property, but the one time it is, you won't prevent the fraud, but at least you can get on that fraud right away. Because there might be a time I get that email and I say, wait a minute, this involves my house, or that mortgage, I never signed that mortgage, that's not my signature. And we have links to the district attorney's office and other law enforcement agencies in the county, and you can get on the fraud right away. You won't prevent the fraud, but at least we're trying to be proactive, because as I said earlier in the show, the biggest asset most of us have are our homes, and I think as a government entity, we should be proactive. And the consumers, it's a free service, and you just sign up, and it's, some people might find it inconvenient to get an email, but if that email saves me, some bad things happening to my house, it's worth it to me. I'll take the inconvenience of sorting through the email to make sure that my property is protected.
Certainly, I would too, and I'm sure most people would, if not all. Talk about, I know we talk about this in other episodes of this program, but mortgage discharges and the importance of a discharge.
Sure, and the mortgage discharge, I always tell people, when we borrow money, the banks want to make sure they get paid, and they record a mortgage. When you pay off or have that loan paid off, what you want to do is make sure a mortgage discharge gets recorded. The banks are doing a better job of making sure discharges get recorded, but in the past, sometimes they didn't. Especially the bigger banks, the smaller community banks like Colonial, Colonial here, and the community banks have done a good job. They follow the rules. Some of the bigger banks, haven't done things that I think have helped the recording system and don't always follow the rules. But sometimes the banks did send the mortgage discharges to the individuals, and the individuals, it just wasn't clear that, hey, wait a minute, I got to take this to the registry and get recorded. What the mortgage discharge document does is tell the world that that mortgage has been paid off. And we see it a lot, people coming in saying, geez, I paid this thing off 20 years ago, but they're saying I need a mortgage discharge. Well, that's because in order to sell your house or maybe refinance, the closing attorney wants to make sure that they have the proof on the record that it's been paid off. And again, you go to a local community bank, they'll get you a mortgage discharge. It's just sometimes we have a document on our website, check our website, where has my bank gone? Because some banks went out of business in the 1990s, others have merged, and we have in this document federal and state contact information, so you can track down where has your bank gone, because you're going to have to track down getting that mortgage discharge. Now, again, check us at office hours. Or call the customer service number at 781-461-6101, because you can call them up and say, hey, look, a couple of my mortgages, have they been discharged? And just to make sure they have. And if they haven't, you just have some legwork you have to do, and it's better to do it rather than when you're under the gun of selling the house or refinancing. Get on it, while you're not stressed with a sale that's imminent.
You had mentioned refinancing, and it brings me back to the Homestead Act. Once a home is refinanced, Homestead Act has to be put back on?
Well, again, thank you, local legislators. We mentioned them earlier. They responded, as an organization. I'm registered. There's 21 registers across Massachusetts. We're part of the Massachusetts Association of Registers of Deeds. We would bring up, you bring up stories to the legislators or legislation. And one of the things we're bringing up is that sometimes no one reads the 30 pages in the mortgage when you're refinancing. Or in my case, I have 3 children. The 2 are out of college, but 1's in. When I was refinancing, my homestead got terminated. There was one sentence in the mortgage document that, again, you talk to different attorneys. I'm an attorney by training. Some would say, no, it didn't, but I read that it killed my homestead, and a lot of attorneys would read that. So what I did is put another homestead on. But thank you, local legislators. They've changed that. So if that language is in these documents, and again, the banks are trying to get the language out, but if it's in the documents, the legislature wrote that it doesn't kill your homestead. So again, in the past, I just put another homestead on just to make sure I'm protected. I didn't want somebody to, and I'm not in debt, or I don't have any, I haven't been in a bad car accident where maybe, someone's trying to go after my house. But I didn't want, things happen to people. That could happen to anybody, any one of us. And I didn't want someone to say, hey, 20 years ago when you refinanced when your kids were in college, you killed your homestead. So I just put another one on. But again, when you see your local legislators around Quincy, thank them. They did put that language in. So I think it's a good consumer protection, because, it's hard enough getting people to put a homestead on, and then to have it kind of surreptitiously or inadvertently killed,
right.
Just because you have to refinance or, put an addition on your house. I think it was a well-needed piece of legislation that the local legislators and the state legislature in general agreed with and changed, which was great.
Let's talk about some current legislation, if we could. Sure. Maybe one that has passed and 2 that I believe are still in the works.
Yes. You always try to focus on your successes. So we did have a success, and again, I can't thank, and I'll name them again, Representative Mariano, Tacky Chan, Bruce Sears, Representative Hunt, and Senator Keenan. We proposed legislation the last legislative session, and my thanks to the local legislators and others around Norfolk County and the whole state, because in one legislative session we got it passed, a piece of legislation that dealt with storing or keeping original documents in the land court. And again, part of the reason we did it is we're running out of space. You can't, we have over 1.3 million documents on the land court side of the registry stored. By law, we have to, but now that law has been changed. Now, we did it for, we're running out of storage space, but I'm still storing them, until we run out of the space. We had accommodated it. But it allowed us to do electronic recording. Electronic recording couldn't take place on the land court or registered land side until this legislation was passed, and it got signed into law last January by Governor Baker. And, the law went into effect April 12th. Norfolk County was the first registry to record an electronic document on the land court side. Norfolk County, as well as the other registries, have been doing it on the recorded land side, which is 80% of Norfolk County's land. But the other 20% we couldn't because of that legislation. And I think the legislators recognized, well, wait a minute, it's time to modernize. And this is this was another part of our modernization initiatives. And what electronic recording is an attorney in Quincy or Bellingham or Cohasset can do a closing here in Quincy, look up the information online, and then transmit the documents to the registry to be recorded. So they don't have to drive the documents down or get a runner to come down. So the lawyers and the people in the business have found it, worth it. It has helped them. It's more efficient. And that we couldn't do that without the legislation passing. So we did have a success. And again, we're grateful for the legislators. And the other bill that we haven't had as much success on, there's two bills this legislative session. It's Senate Bill 880 and House Bill 790. They're exact in language. They're exact in language, and actually the chief sponsor on the Senate side is John Keenan. And what it does is it says, a mortgage, your mortgage, when it's recorded, it's recorded. Well, if it gets assigned, sold, whatever, within 30 days, the assignment has to be recorded. Now, they have to do that on the land court side, which is 20% of the land in Norfolk County, but they don't have to do it on the other 80%. And to me, it's a transparency. People are much better on the computers now. So if they have any questions about who holds their mortgage, they can go online and say, oh, it's recorded. Now, you mentioned mortgage discharge earlier. That's another reason assignment should be recorded. People paid it off 20 years ago, but the assignments weren't recorded. Sometimes they're going, I don't even remember who I was paying. And sometimes you're paying a service group, but not the entity that owns it.
Right. So
as one of my fellow registers said, look, they take $175 from the consumer, which is a filing fee to file a mortgage. As the course of your loan goes on, you should at least know who's holding your mortgage. So, again, I for a number of reasons, the biggest thing for me is the transparency of it all. That what is so wrong about recording assignments so that the consumers, whether it's now while they're paying it off or 10 years from now when maybe they need a mortgage discharge, that they can just go online and look up who held the mortgage and then, deal with that entity. So we're trying, this will be the third legislative session we're trying, so we've had some successes. We'll see on this one. We had a hearing in front of the Committee on Judiciary. We have over 67 sponsors with the two pieces of legislation, which are exactly the same. And, let's see, as the legislative term goes on, hopefully there'll be, it might get some movement. I hope so.
Well, you will certainly keep us updated on this program, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I want to thank you. We are at the end of our half hour, but thank you for coming in. And again, this is a quarterly update, so folks will get to see you again soon.
Yes.
But in the meantime, if they have questions, concerns?
Questions or concerns, you can call the customer service at 781-461-6101 or email me directly, Register O'Donnell, ODonnell, at norfolkdeeds.org. And again, we'll try to provide the customer service we think people deserve.
Great. Well, thanks once again for coming in, and we will see you in a couple of months for another update.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you at home for watching. You've been watching Good Deeds, a program of the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. Please continue to watch Quincy Access Television for more locally produced programming.